Green Living at Home is brought to you by Nedbank. Make things happen.
There's a lot you can do to live a green lifestyle. Recycling, managing water and electricity use, changing the way you get to and from work, and utilizing solar power, to name but a few. However, the ultimate sustainable green lifestyle starts with the design and construction of the house itself. And passive design strategies are the key to sustainable building. This is the practice of designing a building and the spaces within to gain the greatest benefit from natural light and the local climate. Essentially, using the sun to heat the home and windows and ventilation to cool it. This lowers energy use, minimizes the impact a building has on its environment, and decreases the home's carbon footprint.
My number one premise with regards to green architecture is the less you do, the better. So a lot of people go to great lengths to get the latest technology from Germany or Japan or whatever it is. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, the more simple the house, the better. So going back to almost kind of traditional architecture is actually more efficient and more green.
Prospero Bailey, the developer of Monaghan Farm, an eco-estate on the outskirts of Johannesburg, is a firm believer in the less is more school of architecture.
We try and instill in people who buy here the concept of build what you need rather than what you think you should have. It's an exercise. I think a lot of the people that are building are building houses that are perhaps bigger than they require. If one look at some of the estates in Gauteng, I mean, the houses have got almost to pre-revolution proportions, pre-French Revolution, that is. I mean, they are giant castles that are being built on some of the estates, and I mean, it's not sustainable and it doesn't make sense.
More and more architects are using passive design to lower a home's energy use and carbon footprint, while increasing the residents' comfort level through better ventilation and heat management. But it's hardly a new idea.
In many ways, passive design has always been a part of architecture, because I think when humans get a choice, they make the wrong decision. When they don't have a choice, then they do what they're supposed to do. So, for example, if one travels in Norway or the Faroe Islands, they've got planted roofs, and they've had planted roofs for 300 years. If you travel to Thailand, you will find that they've got deep overhangs and places for ventilation, that kind of stuff. So what would be referred to as primitive societies have been using passive design for centuries. And it's just because of the change in humanity in the 19th century, the industrial age, the air conditioner. So we've made the wrong decisions, and we've had to acknowledge that we've made the wrong decision and come back and take a different path.
Key elements of passive design in a warm climate like ours include deep overhangs by the windows and doors to shade the house, fresh air cross ventilation to keep the interior cool, and most importantly, the orientation of the house on the build site.
The orientation of a house is absolutely critical. I mean, you basically need to, I mean, the ideal, they say, in this part of the world is about 7 degrees east of north. And if you can face your house in that direction, and if you create overhangs on the fenestration on the north front, the sun moves very gently from the morning in an arc to the afternoon, and your house is heated. And you can do things with thermal massing, so that a wall that on the western front of the house, for example, will absorb the heat in the afternoon and then give it back to you during the night.
If you orientate and you design the house so that it does have the correct overhangs, you're going a huge way to saving your energy in your house and making it much more efficient.
Funnily enough, most of the kind of early Boer farmhouses understood that perfectly, you know. And if one takes the orientation that they used and the kind of simple cross-ventilation ideas that they used pre-electricity, most of those work pretty well.
Of course, getting the orientation right on an open piece of land when building a new house is simple and easy to achieve. It's not so straightforward with existing buildings or in the suburbs.
It becomes a little bit more complex. For example, in suburbs, let's take for Johannesburg, Parkhurst, you know, cookie-cut houses, the same type of house on the north side of the street, on the south side of the street. You're dealing with two completely different scenarios. On the one side, you're going to have a north entry, north facing. On the other side of the road, you're going to have a north-facing south entry, which is much easier to handle, but you don't always have the choice. So if you're on the south side of the street, you're coming in from the north and you're entering from the north, which is architecturally not ideal, then you have to find an alternative to that. Clear-story lighting is an option, courtyards are an option. You know, these are all architectural devices that have been around for centuries.
If you live in a built-up residential area, or if you live in an old house with the wrong orientation, you can't very well turn the house around to fix the problem. But there are a few things you can do that will help. These include adding on additional overhangs or shutters to windows to give shade in the summer, planting trees, shrubs or bushes by badly positioned windows or doors, installing new windows to increase airflow, painting the roof and walls a light color to reflect sunlight. Next week, we'll take a look at some of the other passive design strategies available, including ventilation, insulation, and building materials.
Green Living at Home was brought to you by Nedbank. Make things happen.